संसारे मझिया रोहिली पौड़िया से पदे नाहिलो आशा संसारे मझिया रोहिली पौड़िया से पदे नाहिलो आशा अपना करम पुंजय शमन कहो ये लोचन दासा अपना करम पुंजय शमन कहो ये लोचन दासा परम करुणा बहुदुई जन निताय गौरचंद्र परम करुणा बहुदुई जन निताय गौरचंद्र सभावतारा सरशिरोमणि केवलानंद कंड सभा अवतारा सरशिरोमणि केवलानंद कंड हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hi Krishna everyone, welcome to our Sunday program today. We'll get started chanting Jai Radha Madhava. Also for those of you who are here early, this is a wonderful time to come closer and take darshan of Shri Shri Radha Kunj Bihari before the temple hall gets very crowded. So you all, the privileged ones, you can come and go close by and see all the wonderful things that are on the altar today on celebration of Makar Sankranti. Hare Krishna. Huh? Sorry?
There's a kite and a firki.
Yeah, yes. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunj Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunj Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari 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 Yashodanandana Vraja Naranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Naranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Naranjana Nandana Vraja Naranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Gaurnitai ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Kunj Bihari Ji ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare Krishna. Welcome, everyone, to our Sunday program today. We will get started by chanting the Mangala Charan prayers. Tarankisha Prabhu, are you able to please put the prayers on the screen? And those of you who know can chant along. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Stajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyat Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swaminiti Namine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langaite Girim Yat Kripatam Avandeshi Gurundi Natarinam. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today at the Sunday program. I have to say it's nice to see some familiar faces back after vacations and holiday. It feels like our temple is looking more and more full. So welcome back. We're glad you all had good yatra wherever you all traveled to. Today's contents of today's class topic is Beyond Labels, Beyond Judgment. It is based from the Bhagavad Gita, and we will talk a little bit before we get to the verse of today. I would like to express my gratitude, especially to His Grace Gauranga Darshan Prabhu and His Grace Kaustuba Prabhu. Most of the content of today's class has been taken from classes that they have presented on this topic. So let's start with a story. This is a real story. Just a few days back, we were out as a family, we were out at a restaurant. And when we were out at a restaurant, we saw another family walk in. They have 2 kids, slightly older kids than Jaya. And both those kids had an iPad with them. And they both had an iPad with them, and the mother was also holding a tablet. And they all go sit at the restaurant table, and they're within my line of sight. And I see all 3 of them on their respective devices sitting at this table. And then the father walks in with his Kindle in his hand, and he's also sitting at the table on a device. There is food in front of them, a screen on one hand, and then they're eating, right? And I looked at them, and in 30 seconds, I kind of immediately judged the parents, number one, that what are you all doing? Like, why are your young children on an iPad at a restaurant? Why are we not using this time as to spend together as a family? And I was thinking, how can they encourage this behavior, right? And at the moment I realized how easy it is to judge somebody without even knowing the before and the after. I judged them in a snapshot of what I saw today. Obviously, that is not their entire life. It was what I could witness while they were in my line of sight for about 20 minutes or so before we had to leave, right? And this happens all the time. We judge people in that short span that we get to witness them for. However, that span, a short is a relative term, but we immediately judge people. Do we agree with that? Or is it just me that judge somebody? By the way, I don't judge parents for letting their kids use iPads. I have to say that on full disclaimer since this class is being recorded. But at that moment, I did judge. What's the point of this, right? And then I was reflecting as this thought came into my head that how easy it was for me to judge them without knowing their story before and after. I remembered a story where I was judged by somebody. This happened a few years back. I work at a company, and we had these workshops that happened to be taking place around Diwali timeframes. I had a team that flew in from India around this time. And that day, it was Diwali day that day. And during the day, I lost my temper at work, which is very rare. I don't lose my temper very often. I was very upset with my team that came from India that they kind of slacked off and didn't do what they were expected to do. If they were in India, I think I would have given them more grace because it was Diwali holiday, but they were here. So I had to hold them accountable to the dates here, right? So I was a little upset. I kind of lost my temper with them. And it so happened that that day evening, I had invited them to come to the temple to celebrate Diwali. So this is back we were at a storefront on 620. We had a Diwali celebration that day. So I had told them, you're away from, and I had told this to them a couple of days before I lost my temper with them, that you should come to the temple, we're having this celebration and all of this. So I happened to be giving class that day when they walked in. And in the class that I was giving, I was talking about the pastime of Naraka Chaturdashi. And I was talking about how Krishna was so compassionate that he forgave the Naraka demon. How compassionate can the Lord be, and how we should learn from Lord Krishna to be compassionate and forgiving. This is the time when my colleagues walk into the temple. Thank you. So they walk into the class here, and then one of my teammates, whom I pretty much blasted 4 hours before this program, comes up to me and he said, I'm really sorry for judging you because I was thinking you were a terrible person this morning. And then I came here and I heard you give class and I didn't know you could be so calm. And I realized that, again, he was judging me, rightly so, in a snapshot, right? So this happens all the time. And what ends up happening because we judge people, there is nothing else for us to judge somebody in, right? We tend to judge based on the physical appearances or physical attributes that we see, and we often label people. We label people by profession. We label people by age. We label people by their education. We label people by where they were born. We label people by the dress that they wear. We label people whether they're a success or failure. We tend to label people that we see. Is that yes or no? Right? And I'm not saying labeling is wrong. I'm saying we just tend to label everybody, right? Like I see Adrika, I label that she's a child. And then in my head, because she's a child, I have already associated certain attributes to her, right? The danger of labeling the danger of labeling, is that it can often lead to judgment. And by judgment, very often judgment may be perceived as a negative thing, but judgment could be in many ways, right? Judgment could be you may be attracted to this person because you're judging them to be a certain way. You could have massive aversion towards this person. You may not like them because you have judged them based on some physical attribute. You may feel proud, you know, because of the label that you put with them, right? Like, think about it. Like, when India wins a game, like, I remember watching, not in the stadium, but in 2011. That was the last cricket game I think I ever saw, so I don't have any more recent references. But in 2011, I remember being in we were at my university watching the World Cup final. And that day morning, I had to happen. Something is always funny. I get tied to service. That day morning, I had service of doing Tulsi Puja at our temple's Mangalarti program. So I took a cab from my apartment to the temple, and my cab driver asked me, are you going to the temple today to pray for Krishna? To pray for not Krishna, to pray for India to win? 5 o'clock in the morning. He's asking me, are you going to the temple to pray for India to win? I said, no, I have service, I have to go pray. He's like, then he said, you know, pray for India to win. I won't charge you for this cab ride. And he just gave me free. So obviously, India winning, I have nothing, no contribution to India winning, you know. Mahendra Dhoni did not hit almost a century because I was right there encouraging him, hold your bat this way, do this, nothing. But I felt so proud watching India win. And if anyone knows what I'm talking about, did you not feel pride when India won that day? Like, why should we feel pride? There's no reason to, but like, it was such a big moment, right? And then you can also feel neglected. Like, when you judge somebody, you can feel like this person is going to neglect me, right? You feel that. Especially in the political climate, right? You feel like I'm in a minority, I may be subjected to some problem if so-and-so happens. Again, all physical attributes, right? What actually happens also with judgment is that because we do a judgment based on snapshot of time, we don't understand the whole story behind it. So it's a very nice story shared by this author called Stephen Covey. Does anyone know who Stephen Covey is? Yes? No? So Stephen Covey is the author of this bestseller called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Very famous book. He's written many editions to it. So in the introduction to this book, he tells a story that he was going in the New York City metro, and at one point, metro, subway, trains, whatever, the train and metro, train in New York City. At one subway station, a young man walks in with his 3 kids. And those 3 kids are creating an absolute havoc in the train station. They're like in the train. They're jumping around. They're like disturbing other passengers. They're making the situation very uncomfortable. And he's seeing that the dad is doing nothing. Like, the dad is just sitting on the chair looking very like distracted. Like, he's not doing anything he should be doing. So Stephen Covey goes up to him and he says, hey, can you watch your kids? Like, what's going on here, right? And then the dad says, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. You know, their mother just died in the hospital. And I do not know how to tell them their mother just died. I'm still dealing with this. And then Stephen Covey describes how instantly his mood changed. Who he judged because of a very physical situation, his mood immediately changed. And he calls this, the term he uses for this is called a paradigm shift. It's a paradigm shift to lead a more empathetic life. So you understand the context behind why somebody is in such a way. Now, Krishna takes this to the next step. He actually teaches us something very radical. He says that wisdom is not just about being empathetic to someone's situation. We should be empathetic. But it is actually seeing beyond labels itself. So today we will read from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse 18. Taran Krishna Prabhu, can I have that on the screen, please? It's a very popular verse in the Gita. So please repeat. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Kavihastini Suni Chaiva Swapake Cha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Would anyone like to read the verse? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Suni Chaiva Swapake Cha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Any of the Vaishnavis? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Sunichaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Any of the youth? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shunichaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. The translation: the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, and a dog eater. So in this verse here, you can, the context of this comes in chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita. So we think of where Arjuna is in his journey of learning the Gita, is until now Krishna has spoken about Karma Yoga. He's introduced Sankhya Yoga, talked about how soul is eternal. And then chapter 4 takes place where Krishna now explains who he is, who I am in chapter 4. And now chapter 5 is really where we start getting into the beginnings of bhakti, which really kick off in chapter 7, right? So chapter 5 is called Karma Yoga with Karma Yoga, Sannyasa Yoga, right? Karma Yoga with renunciation. How do you give up your existing activities to serving the pleasure of the Lord? So as Krishna has explained, Arjuna asks in the beginning of chapter 5 a very profound question. Arjuna asks Krishna, first of all, it's a very nice question. He says, first of all, you ask me to renounce work. And then again, you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? So Krishna starts to explain what is the way we should be living. Should we renounce work or should we work with devotion? And then when he starts explaining how you should work with devotion, he goes into depth of how do devotees who are in that state, how do they actually behave? Because in verse 19, we'll talk about verse 18 too, but just to give context, in verse 19, Krishna continues and he says, those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they're already situated in Brahman. So Krishna establishes that one who's able to follow these characteristics of Samadarshana have actually transcended many of the dualities that exist today, which is very, very beautiful. So in this verse, Krishna describes the qualities of a wise person, how they perceive other people around them, right? There are 5 examples that are given. What are the 5 examples? Who are the 5 people that are being talked about here? A Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, and a dog eater. So why does Krishna give such extreme examples? The point of this verse is the soul is there in everybody, right? The point is very straightforward. But why does Krishna go from a Brahmana to a dog eater? Anyone can understand that someone who eats a dog is probably the lowest class in humanity, right? There is no question about it. No one does protest on the street when thousands and thousands of cows are killed every year. But one dog festival that takes place in China, all over the world there's protest that takes place, right? It's considered universally that is very low class. So why does Krishna take extreme examples? Does anyone know? No? Why does he take such extreme examples? Good, very good. Yes, that's exactly why. Krishna deliberately chooses these very different beings, right? Educated, uneducated, human and animal. Like in the same sentence, he has a Brahmana, a cow, dog, elephant. Like it seems so random, but the reason is to explain from human and elephant, someone who is respectable in society to socially neglected. And it is because our knowledge is tested the most when the differences are at this extreme. That if you, as a wise person, are able to see the dog eater and the Brahmana having that same soul, that's when our vision is becoming spiritual. It is very easy to say this verse, extremely difficult to practice it in reality. Am I right? Or is it just for me? Right? It's very difficult. Even though we know that the soul is Satchitananda, we know the soul is the same in everybody, but it is very difficult to get to this point of Samadarshana, right? Now, it's also when you take a look, step back at this Samadarshana, very often it could be misrepresented, thinking that they're all equal, that a Brahmana is equal to a dog eater. Is that the case? Is Krishna telling us equality? No. Krishna is not telling us equality. Krishna is not saying that everyone has the same role. Krishna is not saying everyone behaves the same way. Krishna is not even saying that they have the same social or ethical responsibilities. He's not saying that. The Gita never promotes this universal responsibility. No. Each person has a dharma to do. Everyone has a responsibility in this world. They exist because of that, right? Equal vision does not mean equal behavior. And that does not mean that just because everybody has the same soul, they're expected to be the same person. It's said in the Shastras that Krishna never likes to be alone. He doesn't like one of everything. So much so that he has two sets of parents also. Krishna doesn't like one. So if Krishna has expressed that he does not like to be alone or singular, why would he want all of us to be exactly the same? Prakriti, as we talked about, are modes of nature that influence us, make us all the unique, wonderful beings, authentic beings that each of us are, right? And Krishna appreciates that. A very good analogy that was given in the class by Gaurang Darshan Prabhu is, if you look at gold earrings, gold bangles, gold coin, the little bit of gold that is found in our computers. Yes, your computers do have some gold. Am I right? The electrical engineers in this room, please confirm. There's a little bit of gold in the chips, right? Do not break your computers to get the gold from there. It is not worth the cost. Let me just say that right now. So it's the same substance. But is it the same? A small gold earring is not the same as like a big gold necklace. It is not the same at all, right? Different shapes, same substance. That is how it is. We treat the wise person focuses on the substance. They focus on the substance because every living being is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. They're an eternal soul. We said, right? Satchitananda. The soul lives in all of them. The body is just a temporary covering. So the wise person focuses on the soul. That this is Krishna's soul, just in a different situation. That is the Samadarshana, understanding that Krishna is in a different soul. So this Samadarshana, the darshana, the vision, can be broken down into three different ways. How each of us perceive it. The first is the material vision. In the material vision, we only see the body. We only see the body. We tend to label and judge them based on bodily appearance, right? They're, like it can be anything. They're using an Android phone. They're not as good as somebody who's using an Apple phone, an iPhone, They're driving a Honda. They're not as good as someone who drives a Tesla, They're wearing a red sweater today, not as good as someone wearing a black sweater. It's like I'm not judging you, Mataji. It's just making a joke. You walked in with a red sweater there. So it happens, right? It happens a lot. I mean, most of the youth are not here, so I can poke fun of them. So in our youth class, we have a chat group, and it's on iMessage exclusively because everyone has an iPhone. And I kid you not, when one kid comes into class who doesn't have an iPhone, they get mocked mercilessly. That, we can't add you to the group chat. You need to get an iPhone. I have to keep telling that doesn't work that way. But it's just like, it's one of those things. It's humorous, but it happens, right? This, when we look at it from our overall bhakti perspective, which stage of bhakti does this map to? What kind of bhakta is at the material vision? Kanishtadhikari. A Kanishtadhikari is at this material vision, where they're only looking at bodily concept. The next layer of vision is mixed vision. Mixed vision is where we understand that there is a soul, but we still see the bodily, the material circumstances around them, right? I like to believe most devotees fall into this category, right? We fall into this category. Most of us, at least, I think most of us fall there, right? What does this correspond to? What kind of devotee does this correspond to? Madhyama. A Madhyamadikari is able to see the both body and the soul. And finally, the pure devotees, the purest devotees are able to see in a spiritual vision, where they only see the soul first. And these are called Uttamadikaris. They only see the soul. They understand that every living entity is a part and parcel of Krishna, right? Judgment that we spoke about at the start of the class happens when we stop at just seeing the body itself, right? And when we do this at a social setting, it's pretty bad. Because the minute we start to label somebody in a certain way because of how they appear, we pigeonhole them. Have you heard of this word pigeonholing? Like you immediately put them in this box because you've just seen them based on a physical attribute and you have created an entire story about them that may or may not be true at all. And the minute you do that, you do not have opportunities to engage with them, right? I'll give an example of this. It happened many years ago. We were distributing books at this festival in downtown Austin called Pecan Street Festival. This gentleman walks up to our table. He's about 6 feet tall. He's wearing, what do you call them, Stinsons? Like those cowboy boots. And he has a cowboy hat. This is just when open carry became like legal. I could see his gun. So he walks to our table, right? Now, I'd like you to put where I am. If you see somebody who's dressed like this, walking towards a table, displaying Bhagavad Gitas, would you approach this person or no? I mean, unless you're someone like Darshamon Prabhu and Gobba Prabhu who will make sure they tackle every single, it's like most of us. Would you approach this person or no? No, I definitely did not. In my head, when he was walking to us, is a waste of time, right? What is the point? He comes to me, oh, this is Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita? Then I'm like, yes. He said, I lost my copy many years ago. I'd love to get a copy today. They said, you had a copy of Bhagavad Gita? He said, yes, when I was in college in the 60s, some people gave me the Bhagavad Gita. I've been reading it for 25 years. It's an excellent book. I've been vegetarian for the last 30 years or so, and I've visited all these temples. And I'm looking at him, and I'm just like, his conversation is not matching the appearance and the label that I put on him. And he was so happy to see devotees out there. He took the Gita, he took other books, and he was so excited that we were out there. And he lives in like some remote part of Texas, and he was just so happy to get in touch with that. And instantly, it's like immediate, right? Judgment happens, and it's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong to label that person, but when you label that person, you have automatically lost an opportunity to engage with them the right way, right? Now, this labeling I was talking about is so far we only talk about a social setting of labeling, right? The scary part is when we apply this to devotees. When we apply judgment to devotees, when we begin to judge them on the material attributes, what happens? In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there's a reference of a verse from Padma Puran. The verse in Padma Puran goes, Archa Vishnav Shiladhir, Guru Shu Naramatihi, Vaishnava Jati Buddhi, Vishnurva Vaishnavanam, Kalimala Mathane Pada Tirtembu Buddhihi, Shri Vishnur Namni Mantre, Sakala Kalusha He Shabda Samanya Buddhihi, Vishnav Sarveshware Tat Itara Samadhir, Yasya Va Naraki Saha. So the summary of this translation is, one who thinks the deity of Vishnu to be stone, the spiritual master to be an ordinary man, a Vaishnava to be of a particular caste or material category, the water that washes the Lord's feet to be ordinary water, or the holy name of the Lord to be an ordinary sound, such a person is an inhabitant of hell. It's a very strong verse. A very strong verse, right? Here it clearly says that one should never judge a Vaishnava based on bodily identity, such as birth, background, or any external circumstances. We do not judge devotees based on this, because when you judge a devotee with these externals, that means we are still seeing them in our material eyes, right? Not as spiritual eyes. And this is interesting because this can present itself in both ways. That if you see a devotee who doesn't fit our definition of a spiritual person, right? Like kind of what my story of where I shared, where my colleagues saw me as someone yelling at them and being this really mean person, and then they come to the temple and they see me giving class. It's like, wait, what? What just happened there, right? Something is off base. It can happen like that too. Like they may have a vision of a spiritual person in their head, and when you don't fit that vision of a spiritual person, you judge them that they may not be Krishna conscious. There's a very nice pastime of Srila Sanatana Goswami. When Srila Sanatana Goswami went to meet Mahaprabhu, Sanatana Goswami was traveling for days and days. He was wearing rags. He had a long beard. And when he went to see Srila Mahaprabhu, they told him, you cannot go see. But when Mahaprabhu came out and he saw Sanatana Goswami, he just embraced him. Right? So because we judging on physical appearance, we just don't know what pure devotee is residing there. Who are we to judge? His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami spoke about this, and His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj speaks about this, and Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj spoke about this towards the end of his life. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was so like withered. Maharaj talked about this, like this idea that we cannot judge devotees based on their physical appearances or even what is happening to their body, even at the time of illness, because we have no idea. So we very guard ourselves against this, right? And making this a little lighter, sometimes is the opposite. That you see somebody wearing tilak, neck beads, you think this is a pure devotee. So I have a funny story to share on this. They walked out of the room. This is funny when Jaya is there. So we were in Dubai earlier this year, and my daughter, who's 5 years old, she saw a bead bag that was pink, and she liked this pink bead bag. So I said, okay, I got her this pink bead bag, and then she took the bead bag, and she was just sitting, chanting. There were no beads in the bead bag. So all she had was a finger. She was not even chanting the Maha Mantra. She was just doing. That's it. That is all she was doing. I kid you not, the number of people who stopped, who came to me to say, look at your daughter, such an amazing devotee. You're doing such a good job of raising such a pure devotee from a young age. She's chanting. They would not even give me a chance to tell them that there are no beads there. Like this, she's not even chanting the Maha Mantra. She's just copying how we look like, right? So then I explained, then it hit me. This is how we judge a devotee. She's wearing tilak, check. She's wearing Vaishnava clothing, check. She's at a kirtan festival, check. She's having a bead bag, check. She has a hand in the bead bag, check. She's closing her eyes, check. Some motion is happening, check. She's a pure devotee going back to Godhead. What is this? Have we not judged devotees like that? I know I have. Sometimes, like, oh, such a pure devotee, right? But it's like you don't, not to say, I mean, again, she's 5, so I don't know what her journey is going to be, so I don't want to judge her there, but like we happens, like we look at appearances and instantly we create an entire story about a human being based on just appearances, including devotees, right? And we see in Srimad Bhagavatam examples of both. So can I hear from you all for the next few minutes? What are some examples where somebody judged somebody in a very material circumstance and cursed them or did something to them? What are some examples from Bhagavatam? There's many, by the way. Jada Bharat, very good example. You know, could you elaborate on that, Prabhu? Can we get a microphone for Prabhu, please? Yes. Very good. Yes.
They judged him, the way he behaved, the way he not spoke anything, to be not worthy of attention or worth of anything and just doing some menial service, basically. But internally he was of different caliber altogether.
Very true. Very, very good example, bro. What are other examples of Srimad Bhagavatam? Devikarangi Mataji? Okay. So what did he judge? Like who's at fault there? Okay, okay. Perfect. Yes, thank you. That's a very interesting pastime because it can go both ways. But yes, yeah, it could go both ways. Yes, that Parvati Devi, yes. Exactly. Parvati also judged Chitraketu Maharaj. Yes. See, such a good example, both ways. Yes. Any other example, Primarupa?
So now from Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have Pundarik Vidyanidhi.
Very good example. Yes.
He was the, He was the guru of Gadadhar Pandit, and he was dressed very opulently. So people thought that he's not a devotee because he didn't have the tilak on or the simple Vaishnava cotton attire on. But the minute he saw the peacock feather that was fanning him, he fell down because all he could think of was Krishna, and he was in pure trance.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful. Laita Madhavi, you had one as well? Excellent. Parikshit Maharaj. Could you elaborate on Parikshit Maharaj and judgment? So who was at fault? Like who judged who? Shamakrishi. So that's another very good example where two levels of judgment happened, right? So Parikshit Maharaj judges Shamakrishi, and then Shringi judges Parikshit Maharaj. So, and it causes, think of the ripple effect, how dangerous judgment is, right? It's a ripple effect. Any other examples, Prabhu? Yeah, beautiful, beautiful pastime. Such Gopal Chandra Prabhu? Very good example. Beautiful example. Our entire Srimad Bhagavatam is so full of pastimes like this, where devotees, in many occasions, were judged incorrectly. Prahlad Maharaj, judged for being a devotee of the Lord, right? He was judged. So many, and there's like full dearth of no shortage of examples like this. Srimad Bhagavatam also gives us the other way, examples of where Krishna didn't judge. So can I hear from devotees, what are some examples when Krishna or Mahaprabhu didn't judge? Or any other devotees of the Lord? Examples where they didn't judge based on physical appearances or physical attributes? Kubja, very good example, Kubja. Actually, the entire Mathura Leela of Krishna, multiple places Krishna just didn't judge. Kubja or Sudama, the flower vendor, no judgment at all. Very nice. What are some other examples, Prabhu? Yes. Exactly. Yes. Yes, Prabhu? Very nice. I was waiting for that. Putana is such a good example. You know, Krishna has constantly always looks at sincerity of heart and not the packaging. In case in the example of Putana, Krishna doesn't even look at the heart. Krishna just looks at her intention, you know. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there's such a beautiful verse, Aho Bakiyam Stanakala Kutam, right? Where Uddhava is saying, like, alas, how can I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to the she-demon? Such a beautiful, extreme mercy Krishna is showing. Krishna does not judge based on our packaging. Krishna does not judge at all. You know, a devotee may be new or senior, they may be polished or rough, they may speak well, they may struggle, you know, they may dress in a certain way, they may behave like Krishna doesn't judge at all. In fact, Krishna warns us in Bhagavad Gita, you know, apichet suturacharo, like I've got them. You don't judge. I will take care of them. Krishna tells us not to judge, but Krishna doesn't judge. Krishna always, you know, focuses the heart. He does not focus about the packaging. And again, Bhagavatam has so many examples and instances where we see Krishna is not judging. Mahaprabhu is not judging. Like Narottam Das, Haridas Thakur, you know, who was of Muslim faith, he was not allowed entry into many temples because of his Muslim faith. He was beaten, you know, so many times in the marketplace just for chanting the Mahamantra out of his faith, you know. Mahaprabhu embraced him. Towards the end of his life, Mahaprabhu took care of him, performed the rites that was needed. Jagai Madhai, Nityananda Prabhu, Mahaprabhu's one, Nityananda Prabhu didn't care even less about those things. It is described in the Shastras, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that, you know, Jagai Madhai had committed so much of crime that their register of all the things they did bad was like, you know, like so big. But Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu didn't even care about this. So that is how the examples that are set for us, right? And bringing it home to Srila Prabhupada. Yesterday, we were downtown in Austin, and we happened to be passing by on First Street, Austin First Baptist, where a lot of the homeless people are, and they're just standing in line to take the food. It's a very, very heavy place when you go to. We were in the car, in the comfort of a car, but just seeing that was really heavy. And it took me a moment to realize, and I came back and then I was reading Lilamrita about the Bowery and how the Bowery was described. It is like what Austin First Street is right now. It is in this Bowery that His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami came to preach the teachings of Krishna. He left Radha Damodar Temple. He left the comfort of Sri Vrindavan Dham to come to America and not go to a luxurious place, to go to the Bowery, to preach, to help the young boys and girls of America, as he called them, to help them find God. What level of compassion it takes. You know, we're now not even talking about Supreme Personality, we're talking about Srila Prabhupada. And this is like 60 years ago. It's not even like recent, right? Then what to, you know, when you think of how Prabhupada did not judge, he did not put labels. I mean, there's so many stories from the early days on how Prabhupada did not judge. And one of my favorite stories is how Jagannath deities, the first set of Jagannath deities were built, right? Many of you know the story, but I want to still say the story again because it's so nice to repeat the story, right? So when in 1966, Srila Prabhupada, 66, I think, 66, he had gone, he was in New York, established ISKCON, and then he went to San Francisco. And when he was in San Francisco, one of his disciples, Malti Prabhu, had gone to a world market store in the 60s, and she saw this statue. It was like a small black, kind of looking like a totem pole, looked Indian. So she said, Swamiji might really like this. Let me take this to show Swamiji. So the minute she takes it and shows to Prabhupada, Prabhupada falls down in front of the deity and he says, was there a yellow and a white one also? She says, yes. Then he says, bring them. So she goes, brings them, and then Prabhupada explains that this is Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, and they have made their appearance here in the Western world. So then, he encourages the devotees that we should do a Rath Yatra for them to build these bigger deities. So Malti Prabhu's husband, Shamsundar Prabhu, he happened to be a carver, like a wood sculptor. So he said, yes, I can do this, Prabhupada. They were still smoking at that time. So one day when Prabhupada came and the deity is being built, Shamsundar Prabhu is still smoking and making these deities. Now, Srila Prabhupada could have said, this is Muchi. Now, no, there's no way we can worship these deities. That's not what he said. He just told them, don't do this when you're doing the deities, and that's it. And then he just let it go. He looked at the intention behind his young disciples who were willing to sacrifice their entire life for Srila Prabhupada. That is compassion. That is our legacy. That is where we come from. That is when we take our initiation vows, or any of you here who are initiated or plan to get initiated, when we take our vows and we get connected to the parampara, it is not just about having Das or Devi Dasi behind our name or to say, oh, we are part of Gaudiya Vaishnava parampara or ISKCON parampara. This is our legacy. If we're not able to follow this legacy of compassion, what are we doing then? Right? This is where we learn not to judge, not to put people in labels. Because when we start to create these labels, like this person is successful, this person is unsuccessful, they're so advanced, I'm not. Because even self-judgment is also dangerous. Like, oh, they're so advanced, I'm not advanced, I can't do anything with my life and go into depression. That is equally dangerous too, right? She doesn't look like a devotee, or she looks like a devotee, which means he looks like a devotee, which means they must be like da-da-da-da-da, My father had this experience many years ago. It doesn't happen in India anymore. It was like in 2004. We were in Delhi, and we were supposed to catch a flight to go to Kolkata. And my father misread the dates. If you know my father, this is, Vaman Hari Prabhu knows, this is fairly common. My dad is not very good at reading dates when we're supposed to fly. So we realized in the morning after Mangalarti, so we rushed, as soon as Mangalarti, we rushed to the airport. So if you know how we go for Mangalarti, you look pretty Hare Krishna. Like, everyone is wearing devotional clothing. And especially when women, I don't think it matters so much. For men, it's a very different situation. So he's wearing like a kurta, dhoti, he's like Harinam Chaddar, and and he rushed to the airport like this. And when he gets to the airport check-in, the Air India official immediately talks to him in Hindi, not in English. To the person before, he was speaking in English. When he saw my dad, he flipped the language. Why? He looked at him, oh, he's wearing a dhoti kurta, he probably doesn't speak English. Let me switch the language, right? So it happens. Like, and now they don't do that, hopefully, but it was like a moment of how it creates this, right? And when we create these labels, it can create pride. I am so superior, you know? Look at me. I have an iPhone. Look at Mataji, she just have an Android. I am so superior than she is, right? I was going to make a joke that I have a Mac, but I realized this class is being recorded. I cannot make fun of that. You know, it can create distance between our devotees. You know, I drive a Tesla. You don't drive a Tesla? No. You don't sit next to me, please. Only Tesla people sit here. You know, only Tesla people sit here. If you don't drive a Tesla, you cannot sit with me, right? Or it can, and you know, it can. This is all funny stuff I'm saying, but the more dangerous thing is it can create offense. It can create offense. You know, look at this person. What are they, you know, why are they working so hard? Why are they accumulating so much of wealth? Don't they know? Krishna said we should give up everything for him. Why are they earning money? That is a huge aparadh to commit. You know? Why is somebody doing something like this? You know, why are they not coming to the temple and doing every time? Why are they not here every Sunday at this time to do this? Why? Like, what happened? You don't know the story, right? We commit offense unknowingly. And when we commit offense, we block bhakti. The minute we get to commit aparadh, we block bhakti. It is like instant. You commit offense, bhakti gets blocked. Right? So the Bhagavad Gita clearly says that judgment is a symptom of false ego. You judge somebody because we think we're superior than them. Subtly, subconsciously, or we think. So it's false ego, right? And equal vision is a symptom of humility and knowledge. It means respect without comparison. It means humility without condensation. Not condensation as in the drop, not condescending somebody. And it is appreciation without judgment. We truly appreciate somebody. So, to kind of wrap up the class, every year when I get an opportunity to give a class in January, I try to give some ideas of resolutions that you all can take. Whether you do it or not, I'm sorry, I don't check in after that, but it is an idea to do. So how can we shift our paradigm of how we view the world? We should shift our paradigm, but we can start small. You know, we can start small within our sphere of influence. So a good way to practice not putting labels and not judging starts with our home. And a good thing to do it is understanding that family roles do not have a hierarchy of worth. Which means if you're earning, it doesn't mean you're superior than someone who's cooking a meal in the house. Which means that if you're mowing the yard, it doesn't mean that is superior to somebody who's cleaning the bathroom in the house. So if you see something that needs to be done, just do it. Don't feel that a certain activity in your house is a higher worth than the other, right? And if any of you feel, and I'm trying not to gender bias this because it can happen both ways. If any of you think that what you do is more superior, swap roles for one day. If you just try to swap roles for one day, you will see what the other person deals with. You're like, oh my God, I had no idea it's like this, right? So but it's important to understand that in families, we can do this. At the temple, I'm bringing to the temple, right? To serve without seeing any service as big or small. Every service is big in Krishna's eye. Actually, what is Krishna asking for? Patram pushpam phalam toyam. And yatkarosha yadashansi. Krishna has made it so simple. Offer me a flower, fruit, water, or leaf with devotion. Whatever you do, do it as an offering to me. That's it. He doesn't even say what you have to do. Whatever you do, you know, on New Year's Day, somebody came, they bought a new bike, they came to the temple, decided to do a bike puja, that is following Yatkaroshi Yadasnasi. It's so simple. It is so simple. Krishna has made it super, super simple for us, right? So we have to remember that there is no service big or small. And then we should not judge devotees based on material appearances. And when I mean material appearances, forget just the way they look, but it could be any material attributes. Whether their job or their status in society. This is not a judging point at all. Because this is where we can commit offenses unknowingly, and B, whatever you're judging them on is material. It is going to pass. Krishna himself says it's temporary, right? So what is the point of, wasting time? Focus on their devotion. When you see other devotees, look at what an amazing devotee this is. you know. Focus on their devotion that they have. You know, look at Lalita Madhavi. What a wonderful deity service she does to their Shishirada Rasika Chandra, right? Look at Narottam Vilas Prabhu and Premarupa. Like, they come and they make these beautiful turbans for Shishirada Kunjbihari. Look at Sakshi Gauranga Prabhu, how he comes and he's always willing to come and clean the temple whenever you ask him. Look at Tarun Kishore Prabhu, he's doing all of this. Like, there's so many. Look at the devotees for what they do, not what their physical attributes are. It is not worth your time. Focus on devotion. If you have to judge something, judge what an amazing devotee you are and think, there's no way I can compare to them, I better start today. Right? That is what we need to focus on. And in our society, general society, respect even if you don't agree with them. It is okay if you don't agree with them. Just respect and walk away. Walking away is a very good option. And compassion without compromise. This is a very important thing, right? We do not compromise our principles, but we are compassionate. We have to be compassionate towards every living being. In a society that judges us all the time, strive to be different. Strive to be different. Do not fall into this judgment trap here, right? So whenever we encounter people around us, we can take a pause and mentally say, this is an eternal soul trying their best. So to conclude here, Krishna doesn't ask us to change the world overnight. He's not expecting that much from us. He's just asking us to change our vision, change how we see the world around us. Because when vision changes, our behavior softens, our relationships heal, and most importantly, our bhakti deepens. And that is why we're all here today, to deepen our bhakti. Thank you so much, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any questions, comments? We have time for one. Yes, Marsha? That's wonderful. I love that. Krishna immediately, how did you judge? Okay, let's see how you'll handle this. Excellent. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Purnamasi Mataji? Just 1 second, Mataji. Can you give the microphone, please?
So as I was saying, in our early years of Krishna conscious journey, as a family, we were really touched by two things His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj mentioned. He said, in this current age, we love things and use people, and it should be the other way around, you know, like love people and use things. That was one message. And second thing is, he said you have to be very lenient with others, but be very strict with oneself. And as a family, we've always loved those two, and it's actually touched our hearts from the very beginning. So just wanted to share those two
Beautiful
messages.
points. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you, Mataji. And again, thank you so much, devotees, for coming today, participating. And I hope this was worth it. This was some useful information to take back. I'm happy to do another check-in with you if you're following this resolution or no. Instead of asking you, I'll ask your spouses, especially since the first one had to do with family. But something to take home and try to, like, the less we judge, the happier this world will be. So thank you so much again. Hare Krishna. So before Aarti today, we actually have a small presentation that is going to be done by Agastya Gurukulam. So one of the things that, we talked again just now about judgment, it's very important for us to be able to make sure our kids are comfortable with their identity, right? As generations and generations go, people become less and less connected with their original identity, particularly their roots come from. So Agastya Gurukulam is an online Sanskrit immersion school. Many of our devotee kids, especially younger children, join their classes where they teach not only Sanskrit, they teach the basic foundations that can help our younger children grow. This follows a regular Gurukul program. This does not replace our Sunday school that we do here. Their classes are online, so they wanted to share a little bit about what they do here. This, for many of the devotees in this community, this school has been recommended by His Grace Hari Parshad Prabhu as an opportunity for children to get connected with scripture. So they're here today doing the presentation.
Thank you so much, Mataji. That was an amazing session. Hare Krishna, everyone. My name is